Hi, this is Natalie. This video is a very small presentation that I want to use to pitch a project that I want to hopefully start soon. The theme for this will fit into one of the themes for one of the upcoming modules, Sins and Virtues. Carried is a short film that I started writing about a year ago now, with help from some people in the course. I wanted it to be personal to me and my experiences, which is why I'm exploring the role of young transgender adults within modern society, but using a modern crime family as a backdrop and a filter for the audience to reflect on themselves and put them into the situation without fully confronting them on it, to make it easier on the audience. To go along with this, I have talked with a few people I know outside of uni and all across the country about their experiences growing up as transgender, whether they came out very recently or they came out years ago, whether they did it when they were young, whether they were old, as all that has different experiences for different people, especially in certain areas. This is a mood board that I started compiling not long after being given this assignment. I had thought about the aesthetics and the themes of the film and before this, but this is the first chance I really had to start compiling images of how that would come across and how different aspects can be shot and how different characters could be presented. This is just a very brief character profile of Carrier, the main character. In terms of the world of the story, she's very recently come out of the closet. Imagine just a few weeks, maybe a few months before the start of the film, given enough time for behind the scenes tensions to rise and to catalyze the events of the movie. I imagine her being very strong willed. She knows what she wants, she knows how to get it, and she knows exactly what her father is like and how he operates. So her being confronted by him in a situation that she's likely never been in before is very hard for her to deal with, especially if she wants her desired outcome of being accepted while still being a member of the family. Similarly, this is Gwyn's very brief character profile that I drew up. I imagine him being a more old-fashioned gangster type, being very involved with honor and the perception that others have of him, especially within their little world of crime. Despite this, though, he still very much is a family man, and he still wants to love his children, especially Carrier. It's just because of him growing up in a different time, he has to come to deal with this new aspect of his life going forward. I intend Gwyn to be one part of the audience, of the majority of the audience stand-in, because from my experience and experience of others, very close family members do have a hard time accepting transgender individuals, especially young transgender people. So to have someone like Gwyn, who is very set in his ways, and to be very hard to convince otherwise, being shown as understanding, it would be a great influence on the audience to get them thinking about what if they were in this situation, what if they had to deal with these issues going forward. So the primary conflict of the film is between Carried and Gwyn. On surface level, it's how Gwyn could kidnap his own child, and how he can balance the acceptance he has for his daughter and the perception that his underlings, but not underlings, of him while doing so, and of his potential rivals. Whereas for Carrier, the conflict is trying to get her father to see more openly about the situation and to accept her for who she is, for who she will be living as going forward, and how she still has a place within the the family and within the crime enterprise. On a deeper level, the conflict is more about the place and level of acceptance that especially young transgender people have today in today's society, as there's stories about transgender people being ostracized from their families, being kicked out of their homes, and I really want to address that through this. Both characters have their own goals. Carriad primarily wants to escape the situation. She wants to be away from the current situation of being bound and helpless. And to get through that, she has to find the connection with her father and has to strengthen that at least somewhat to be able to get out of this. Gwyn's motivation for doing this to his daughter, though, is that he wants to find a way to balance, like I said, balance the personal and crime business life that he leads. And the way that he could see that happening would be to remove all external influences and just to confront his daughter alone. So a isolated church or isolated pub, rundown pub, would be the perfect setting for that. At the end of the day, though, both want to just love and understand where each other come from, especially regarding this issue, and move past it and look towards the future where they are still a part of a family and still love each other as part of a family. As I said earlier, aside from the primary theme of young transgender people and where they fit in today in today's world, I have also tried incorporating some elements of the 7 deadly sins and 7 heavenly virtues, especially to be portrayed through the characters and how they interact with each other and how they assess the situation. So, for example, I envisioned Gwyn being an embodiment of pride. He very much has an opinion of what other people think of him. He very much values the opinions of other people, and the great counter to that is humility, which I find would work well with Carriad. Having Carriad make Gwyn face something that would ultimately bring him down a peg and make him face his own family and make him humbled is something that I find is a great dynamic and can be easily explored with further development. To further this idea as well, there would be 2 supporting characters within the film, Robert and David, on screen respectively. I decided to add these 2 characters in as more proxies for the audience to latch on to, embodying more aspects of acceptance or non-acceptance respectively, again from different aspects of today's culture. I envision David being wrath. He is very much against the idea of Carriad coming out. He's very much against the idea of Carriad anyway, whereas Robert has a lot of patience and he's willing to slow down and learn everything there is about Carriad, her coming out, her transition, her life, really. And in the script, I did put in a small bit near the end where those 2 are talking and interacting and asking each other about the situation going on within the building that they are guarding and whether if it is the best thing going forward. Obviously, I have a bias and would say that Robert is right, but I did try making it as equal as I feel I could have, because I do still want people to see themselves in this and to address how they view the situation at hand, and I don't want to just put in stereotypes and paint the people that I personally would see as wrong as being almost demonic, because I don't want to drive them away. I want them to face their own prejudices and hopefully change them for the better. As for the structure of the film, it's very simple. It's a very short 3-act structure. First act is the car rolling up onto the church and the group emptying Carrier, at this time unknown, from the boot and taking her into the building. I have put church slash pub because there because I haven't fully decided on a location that where I would want to set this. I'd have to speak to a producer about this, about about location and what we can do in the location. There's a few places in mind for both that I think could work. It's just logistics of sorting them out, really. Act 2 would be Carrier's reveal and Robert and David leaving and waiting outside when Gwyn stays behind and talks to his daughter, and they have their discussion, which would be the bulk of the film. There's very little room either side of this for the other two acts. Lastly is Act 3, and this is where everything comes to a climax. Opens on Robert and David talking as Gwyn and Carrier reconnect at the end of the last act, and they address the situation themselves. They bounce off each other about their own opinions of Carrier and what this would mean for the crime family going forward, before Gwyn brings Carrier out to say that this is how it's going. She's part of the family. She's staying a part of the family. Which leads to David confronting Gwyn before Gwyn using his powers as the boss to shout him down and to ultimately leave the matter where it is, to leave it as it should be. I have looked at some other stories as inspiration for my own writing and to see how different films and projects and shows with similar themes have fared in the box office or in ratings. So firstly, we have Snatch and Butterfly, both doing really well from the sources that I've been able to find. Snatch is considered a cult classic now, and it does have a great box office take for the time it was released. Butterfly is a more recent ITV production about a very young transgender girl coming out. I think I haven't seen the show. I still really do need to, but I think they are a teenager in this, which does help tie in with the themes I wanted to go for my story. And the first episode was able to generate a 2.8 million viewership with a second season slated for the coming years. As for independent films, I've been able to find two similar to mine in The Fence and The Real Thing. The Fence is a less organised crime and more how people in the 70s dealt with crime in their small gangs, featuring two brothers, two skinheads, dealing with their one of their bikes being stolen. I did look into this, and apparently, I did look into this, and I learned from this that even though they were skinheads, they weren't like what we think of now with the white power and the race connotations and everything. And in the 70s, it was a lot different. I looked into this and a few further readings of how people in gangs, especially in the UK, would deal with certain situations and whether they would make it as public and as well known as other international crime films would make it seem. On the other side, we have The Real Thing, a short film about a father coming home from war and meeting his child again, who has since come out and started living as a girl. The film shows various instances of this very brilliantly before those two meet again for the first time after so long. I'm not ashamed to say that I did actually tear up at this. I found this a great template to work from for looking for acceptance from what could be considered very macho and manly individuals about the transgender discussion, as you can see it through the actress's face in the short that she is worried about her father's reaction, which is understandable given that he is in the military. Currently, it has 406,000 views and 16,000 likes, a great ratio again, and I just hope that this particular short film gets the recognition it deserves, because it is, in my opinion, it is a very well put together and executed project. I'll leave you with an excerpt from a table reading I had with a few friends of mine. I did get a lot from this specifically because they had their own inputs on what I had written and how they now view some of the things now that they've seen it written down on paper, really, but also how they imagined it as it was being read out. Thank you for watching, I guess, and I hope I'll be able to make this soon. Goodbye.
I just want to talk, so if I take the gag out, promise me you won't scream.
Carriad looks back to her father and slowly nods. Gwyn steps forward and loosens the gag from Carriad's mouth, who then proceeds to spit it out as her father steps back again. The pair continue staring at each other for a short while, Gwyn with soft eyes and Carriad staring right through him. Both are shifting as if they have something to say. Carriad sighs, breaking the silence. Well, okay, if we're not going to be talking, then just kill me and get it over with.
What the fuck? What the fuck do you mean by that?
Well, that's what we do, right? We get rid of things that are problems, that get in the way of the family business.
No, well, yes, you are family. You're my family. It's just complicated.
Okay, so whose idea was this then? Who twisted your arm to have me bagged, beat, and brought here? Was it Dav, the fat prick?
No one's. It's my idea.